psychiconline. I am the purveyor of esoteric lore, also known as the alien next door. Welcome to Occult News. In top news today, we are discussing Mr. Alex Jones being ordered to pay around $1 billion to families of Sandy Hook because purportedly he was saying that they were crisis actors and that Sandy Hook was a psychological operation conducted by
who knows what, who knows where, who knows how.
This news story is taking place in the US of A, the United States of America. And in the US of A, we do know that there is freedom of speech. So if Alex Jones was making these claims against these families, the question is, why is he ordered to pay around $1 billion in damages to these families? That was his freedom of speech.
Ain't nobody needed to listen to him.
Or was his freedom of speech actually harming other people? Is Sandy Hook an actual event that occurred? Is it a psyop? Is Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist? Or does he have valid arguments for what he's saying? Unless one has personally witnessed something, it's really hard to tell what the real story is. And even if someone has witnessed something, their story would most likely be very different from someone else who witnessed the same thing. What makes something a psyop? Is freedom of speech being threatened in the United States? Is the Alex Jones story in and of itself a psyop?
What is real?
In our next story, we have some news out of New York fucking City. That's right, folks, the big motherfucking apple.
Please don't call it that.
As per the mainstream media news outlets, we have a story here that came out on or about September 22nd, 2022.
We ask you to keep these dates in mind as we proceed along.
Quote, the NYPD wants to speak to 6 people in connection to a dismembered body found in a suitcase in Brooklyn.
Isn't that a fucking attention grabber?
A dismembered body found in a suitcase? That sounds like some horror movie shit.
Stereotypically speaking.
The NYPD wants to speak with 6 people in connection to this. Also out of New York City, October 4th, 2022. 6 women dressed in green alien jumpsuits.
Some even had the headband antenna.
Purportedly are subjects of interest in an alleged robbery and beating in the Times Square subway station. We have 6 people that are wanted for questioning in connection to a dismembered body found in Brooklyn in a suitcase. And there are 6 women dressed in green alien jumpsuits that are wanted in connection with a purported robbery and beating that occurred in the Times Square subway station.
We have 2 6s, friends. What do you think is coming next?
Another 6! All in less than a month's time, because this story occurred on or about October 8th, 2022. 6 people are considered suspects in a beating and stabbing of a 17-year-old on a Manhattan subway line. Is this stuff really going on? That's some fucking coincidence that there's a 6 people wanted in connection 3 times, which would make the number 6 appear
Thrice?
According to what our spidey senses are telling us, these stories broke on the mainstream media. We just found it interesting that in the span of less than a month from September 22nd, 2022 to October 8th, 2022, there were 3 stories which we're aware of, all in regards to 6 people wanted in connection to something grisly that might have come out of a horror fucking movie, who fucking knows, in New York City. Now, we are aware that our audience is vast and we have viewers from all over the place. This is but just one area in the globe, in the 3D Earth Matrix, where we notice symbolism.
The 3 6s.
We are sure that you, all over the globe, have your own instances where you might notice some mainstream stories and you might see some coincidences there as well.
Of course it's a fucking coincidence. Why the fuck would the mainstream media have 666?
All in the span of less than a month. Why would they do that? It's a coincidence. Of course it fucking is, right? From these grisly horror movie sounding scenarios, let's take a quick break to discuss Elon Musk's, yes that's right, the Elon Musk 2022 reading list. We found some interesting things in the titles. We have not read any of these books, but from Blinkist.com, these are the books one ought to be reading, according to Elon Musk. Steve Jobs, the penetrating biography of Steve Jobs. human compatible, artificial intelligence and the problem of control, 0 to 1, notes on startups, or how to build the future. Merchants of doubt, the scientists who peddled untruth about a range of crucial issues. Life 3.0, being human in the age of artificial intelligence. The big picture on the origins of life, meaning, and the universe itself. Lying. Why we need to stop lying and start telling the truth. Superintelligence. Paths, dangers, strategies. The Wealth of Nations, the most influential economic book of all time.
Originally written in the fucking 1700s, if you can believe that.
So in terms of Elon Musk's reading list, the titles are quite interesting. Did anything spark your curiosity?
Let us know in the comments.
Some of you might be familiar with the organization Birds Aren't Real. Peter McIndoe is the head guy of Birds Aren't Real, and the whole premise of this idea is to be satirical in terms of conspiracy theories. So they purportedly created a conspiracy theory that birds aren't real, that birds are actually spy drones created by the US government to, what's that, friends?
Motherfuckers.
Is this true? No one knows. The whole theme of Birds Aren't Real is satire. We'd like to ask, who is Peter McIndoe? It's interesting because if you'll check the Instagram page of Birds Aren't Real, you'll see that there was an image from August 5th when we were intuitively guided to check the page Birds Aren't Real.
Wink, wink.
When we saw posts and this guy, Peter McIndoe, was lying in a hospital bed, and the story that was going out was saying that the US government did something to him. Then there was like a picture of him in a wheelchair, and then they were talking about they were going to get him some help. If you want to skim that Instagram feed yourself, feel free to do so. But Birds Aren't Real is actually coming up in our things that make you go, category, because it's interesting if one is guided with the eye to gather information about the Birds Aren't Real satirical movement, because it's satire, right? I mean, the US government, of course, is not...
The US government is not spying on individuals.
Let alone do birds. Come on. I mean, but why is the story out there? Why did Birds Aren't Real, who's purportedly a satirical organization, why did they say that the US government was behind Peter McIndoe's mysterious illness, which was never named, by the way? Do people really believe that Birds Aren't Real is a valid organization? Do people really believe that birds aren't real? Are birds in fact not real?
Do people really think that the US government did in fact poison Peter McIndoe?
Or is this potentially a psyop poking fun at conspiracy theorists? Because how dare anyone not trust the fucking government? It's all up to the interpretation. What do you guys think? Our next news story leads us to the United States $1 bill. So if you are in another country, another part of the globe, you might notice some interesting things going on where you are as well. Feel free to take heed if you notice any signs and symbolisms regarding your currency or government or mainstream media stories. Located in the US dollar bill is the phrase annuitcoeptis. According to mainstream definitions, the phrase purportedly means he or she favors our undertakings. Sometimes we see this written as God favors our undertakings. This is printed on money, paper money, US currency, the Great Seal of the United States. If we take a look at the root, which is Latin, it actually translates into someone who is starting to nod, someone who is beginning to maneuver their head like this.
They're like nodding.
It's like if you hear a good beat in the fucking club, you start nodding. It could be if you're in an inside joke with someone, you look at your fucking homie, you start nodding. Or it could be nodding in agreement. It could be nodding in disagreement. Someone beginning to nod?
What the fuck does that mean?
There's also the definition of nod, as in you nod off to sleep, as in someone being
Hypnotized. You are getting sleepy.
you nod off to sleep. Theta state is a state of sleepiness, if we want to go back into some psychological terms.
Either which way.
Annuit coeptis is on the dollar bill, and it is some interesting ways to interpret this phrase, because why is it printed on money? Insinuating, as based on some articles, is saying that the Eye of Providence, which is also pictured on the dollar bill, is the one that's favoring the undertakings of who? Of the creators of the money? Of the spenders of the money? Who, right? There's so many questions. What do you think? What's your interpretation? Is there really reptilian symbolism and alien symbolism? That's another conspiracy theory about the US dollar bill. Is there really all this shit going on with just the dollar bill? Imagine what the fuck is on the $100 bill.
What do you think?
Once again, folks, we have a story coming from the United States of America. It might be called something different in the country where you reside, so feel free to conduct your own research if it so behooves you. We're going to now be looking at something interesting from the website ssa.gov. This article that we'll be referring to here is entitled the SSN, which stands for Social Security Number, Numbering Scheme. That's right, friends. The SSN numbering scheme.
The fuck does that even mean?
Ain't nobody know, because the definition of scheme has quite a few variations.
A large-scale, systematic plan or arrangement for attaining a particular object or putting a particular idea into effect. A public housing complex. Make plans, especially in a devious way or with intent to do something illegal or wrong.
It's talking about the Social Security number basically having 3 parts, which we found interesting, which are broken up into a 9-digit Social Security number. So what is the Social Security number? Why did humanoids start being assigned numbers at the time of their birth? What is the Social Security number used for? We do want to also take in this little metaphor of test subjects sometimes are just given a number, inmates in a prison are sometimes just given a number, and that's how they're identified as by observers of a higher power. If someone is in a science experiment, they might be labeled specimen 92548, that's their number, or if someone is in a prison, they might be known as inmate 85427.
Whatever the fuck it is.
But someone from a higher authority is looking over and they just know that animal or that inmate, that person, that individual as the number. They don't have a name, they don't have a birthday, they don't have a zodiac sign according to whatever, it's just a number. There is a similarity in lab arenas and prison arenas, but the interesting thing is that it's given to humanoids just upon their birth, and the Social Security number is based upon loosely the year and the location that their vessel incarnated into the 3D Earth matrix. That's loosely what it's based on. You can feel free to independently research this more in depth if you so desire. What the Social Security number is even meant to do, it's meant to identify someone as a number, but why would anyone need to be identified? For what reason? Unless they were taking part in a lab experiment, perhaps, right? Specimen 6279, or if they were an inmate in a prison, inmate 7541, for example. Let's just say. So someone being born into the Earth matrix is assigned a number immediately, and that's what they're known by. But by who? By their government? By their family? By their peers? Who is really the one that stipulated utilizing the Social Security number scheme? And we don't necessarily mean where it originated in the 3D realm, because we do know that for material things to take form, energetically it must have existed non-corporally. So who is the one non-corporally that is administering these rules of the matrix, such as assigning a humanoid at birth a serial number? Who's doing that? What do you think? And in this segment's grand finale, we have some musings from the European Union Commission. The European Union Commission put out some interesting discoveries that they found in regards to the whole
cooties and Kool-Aid situation.
And the cooties and Kool-Aid situation was something that individuals in 99.9% of the Earth matrix know about. So we don't need to rehash that. In regards to this entire situation, there were some findings which came out, which were broadcast, and the video is on YouTube if you care to look for it. YouTube is a mainstream platform, so
Don't know why it's on there.
don't know why it was meant to come out, because it kind of opposes the official narrative about the cooties and Kool-Aid situation. But we wanted to ask you, why is this story coming out now? Is it even true? Some of the findings in this study had some allegations about the CEO of a large pharmaceutical company and the president of a certain government having some text messages that were discovered in some individuals' opinion to be not very appropriate in some form of...
He began to nod type of way.
We don't know why these conversations took place. We don't even know if these conversations are real, but we do know that this EU Commission, what they were saying does in fact really challenge the official narrative that was given in regards to the OG cooties and Kool-Aid situation.
This is all alleged and perverted.
And this video kind of paints the cooties situation in a different way than the majority, whilst that was going on, believed it to be. So which case is true? Is the EU Commission onto something? Or is this just a big psyop? This is some pretty tasty tea, so if you are interested in finding out more about that, feel free to research it yourself. We encourage individuality and the utilization of one's own mind and third eye. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful stroll. I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. See you later.